Now, Ed Sheeran has won his legal battle over claims part of his track Shape of You was copied from a song by another artist. The grime artist Sami Chokri, who performs under the name Sami Switch, had accused Ed Sheeran of ripping off his track Oh Why.
Released in January 2017, Shape of You quickly became one of Ed Sheeran's biggest hits. It reached #1 on the charts in 34 countries, including the USA, where it stayed at the top of the Billboard charts for 12 weeks. It entered the UK charts at #1 and remained there for 14 weeks. By December 2017, it surpassed Drake's One Dance as the most streamed song on Spotify, and December the following year, it was the first song on the streaming platform to hit 2 billion plays, and it's still the most played, and therefore the highest earning song on Spotify, with an average of 500 million streams every year. With over 50 million units sold or sales equivalent streams, it's been awarded 11 gold discs, 94 platinum discs, and 9 diamond certifications. In short, it's one of the most successful pop songs of all time. Although some people's love of the song has gotten them into trouble. In March 2017, Sonia Bryce was jailed for 8 weeks for breaching a court order, preventing her from creating a noise disturbance. The offence that sent her to jail? Playing Shape of You on repeat at full volume for half an hour. Shape of You was written by Ed Sheeran, along with John McDaid from Snow Patrol, and producer Steve McCutcheon, professionally known as Steve Mac. When the three writers went into the studio, work on Ed Sheeran's own album had been completed. So the intention was just to get some ideas together and think about who might sing them later. As the Caribbean-tinged dancehall beats started to come together, they thought someone like Rihanna might sing the song. As the lyrics started to take shape, Sheeran started to feel it wouldn't be such a good choice for Rihanna and continued to write the song for himself. At the time of writing Shape of You, Ed Sheeran was the subject of a lawsuit initiated by the family of Ed Townsend, who alleged that Sheeran had copied Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On, a song co-written by Townsend, for Sheeran's 2014 hit song Thinking Out Loud. So not wanting to be sued again for this new song, a musicologist was hired prior to the release to assess any potential future claims of plagiarism. What they noticed was a similarity in the section running up to the chorus in Shape of You.
Girl, you know I want your love was handmade for somebody like me.
And portions of the TLC hit song, No Scrubs.
No, I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me.
Having been made aware of the similarities, he adjusted the melody in that section to sound less similar.
The bit that went, girl, you know I want your love, originally was, girl, you know I want your love.
The writers of the TLC song were contacted, and negotiations began to clear the interpolation of No Scrubs. Talks were still ongoing when the single was released, so initially it was credited as being written by just Sheeran, McDaid and McCutcheon. When the discussions were completed, the three writers of No Scrubs were added to the credits of Shape of You and awarded a share of the publishing revenue. This change resulted in many news outlets misreporting that Sheeran had buckled under pressure of plagiarism accusations, when in fact talks to agree the use of the interpolation were ongoing before anyone had heard the track, and certainly before any online criticism. By 2018, the track was earning Sheeran and his co-writers £5 million a year in the performing rights royalties collected and distributed in the UK by PRS for Music. This is the money paid to songwriters when their works are played on the radio and TV, or performed at music venues, cafes, bars, shops, and other businesses where music can be heard. Sami Chokri first heard Shape of You around April 2017. He said he was in a car when it came on the radio and he instantly heard the similarities with his own song, Oh Why, released 2 years earlier. Soon after, he had a lawyer draft a letter to Ed Sheeran's team. Chokri says the letter was simply asking for an explanation, and he felt the responses he got back were condescending. However, it's hard to imagine any response other than, here, have some money, being considered acceptable. On the advice of his lawyers, Chokri also signed up to PRS for Music and registered his songs. He also registered an interest in Shape of You, resulting in PRS freezing 10% of the performing rights royalties for the song. In May 2018, Ed Sheeran became aware of the conflict around the authorship of Shape of You. He and his co-writers commenced legal proceedings by first requesting that the court declare that their song had not infringed on the copyright of OY, written by Sam Chokri and Ross O'Donoghue. 2 months later, the two writers filed their own claim against Ed Sheeran for copyright infringement, demanding damages and full accounting of profits for the song. The case would be tried in the UK, and so unlike many other recent high-profile music copyright cases that were tried under US copyright law, often with a jury deciding the verdict, this case would be tried under the slightly stricter UK copyright law, and the decision would be coming from one judge. In this case, Justice Anthony Zaccaroli QC, who has a background in commercial law, although not specifically music copyright. Under UK copyright law, a work is infringed when the whole work or any substantial part of it is either directly or indirectly copied. This is known as a primary infringement, which is a strict liability tort, and as such doesn't require knowledge or intent on the part of the defendant. This means that copyright can be infringed accidentally and unintentionally. This is slightly different to US copyright law, where infringement requires substantial similarity between two works, meaning that any significant similarity in protected elements of the plaintiff's work could constitute an infringement. In UK law, what is required is for a substantial part to be similar. At a glance, that seems like the same thing. But what it means is the part that is alleged to have been copied cannot merely be a part of the protected elements, it must constitute a substantial part of the song, and this is determined by quality, not quantity. It's a subtle difference that means in a UK copyright case, the original work is examined on its own first to determine if the elements cited are sufficiently substantial, rather than comparing both works side by side from the outset. In this case, Sami Chokri is claiming that his chorus is the main element that's been copied. The words in the chorus are also the title, so clearly it is a substantial part of the track. However, other similarities were also claimed, such as the structure of the lyrics between the choruses, the harmonic progression, texture, melodic fills, and rhythmic clicking, were all deemed to not go beyond common elements and therefore not a substantial part of the protected works. If there's a sufficient degree of objective similarity between the copyright work and the alleged infringing work, and the defendant denies intentionally copying or interpolating elements, then the claimant must prove the defendant had access to the work, in which case there will be a presumption that copying took place, but the burden of proof is on the claimant. The question of access is similar in US copyright, although previous cases have shown that the application is different in the two jurisdictions. In Three Boys vs Michael Bolton, it was ruled that Bolton had access to the Isley Brothers song because it had been played a few times on a local radio station Bolton may have listened to growing up, which seems more like proving he could have heard it is all that was necessary, not proving that he definitely did or even probably heard it. Sami Chokri claimed that after recording his song, he made every possible effort to get the song to Ed Sheeran, as he was a fan and wanted him to hear the song and possibly endorse it. He never sent the song directly to Ed Sheeran, instead sending it to people around him. He also argues there's multiple other ways he could have heard the song, as they've attended the same events and the song was widely available on Spotify, YouTube and other popular platforms. Due to the substantial value at stake, the case was to be heard at the High Court in London, and the trial began in March 2022. The trial started with the barrister for Chokri and O'Donoghue, Andrew Sutcliffe QC, claiming that Sheeran borrows ideas and throws them into his songs. Sometimes he will acknowledge it, but sometimes he won't. He also suggested that the profile of the songwriters played a part in deciding whether to credit in clear parts. Sheeran denied this and pointed out he'd previously shared credits with lesser-known artists and gave examples. Shivers, Visiting Hours, and a song that sampled some music from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, written by a relatively unknown composer. He said, "I do refer to other works on occasion when I write, as do many songwriters. If there's a reference to another work, I notify my team so that steps can be taken to obtain clearance. I've been as scrupulous as I can possibly be, and have even given credits to people I believe may have been no more than a mere influence for a songwriting element. This is because I want to treat other songwriters fairly." Sheeran seemed irritated by the cross-examination, but gave his answers confidently and responded well to each of the lines of questioning. Sami Switch appeared on YouTube channel SBTV around the same time as Sheeran, but when asked if he had been played Chokri's track by SBTV founder Jamal Edwards, someone who Sheeran described as his best friend, he explained that they didn't share songs and instead would talk about football, talk about his mum, talk about theatre. Before his death in February 2022, Jamal Edwards gave a written statement in which he denied playing Oh Why to Sheeran. "Even if I was sent a copy, I did not share it with Ed," he wrote. The songwriter was also questioned about his song Photograph. That was the subject of a separate copyright claim filed in the USA from the writers of Matt Cardle's 2012 hit Amazing. The claim was settled out of court for a reported £4 million and a share of the song's royalties. Although a substantial sum, it was much less than the $13.8 million they wanted. Sheeran explained he settled the claim because he felt it was more trouble than it was worth to take it to court, especially given the ink had barely dried on the Blurred Lines verdict, and he was facing the same lawyer that successfully represented the gay family in that case. Introducing the previous copyright case was an attempt to portray Sheeran and his co-writers as serial plagiarists who had a habit of taking elements from existing songs as part of their process. Co-writer Johnny McDaid gave his evidence in writing and refuted that claim. "I have been a professional songwriter for many years and have achieved substantial success," he wrote. "I do not need or want to, nor would I ever, plagiarise other people's work. The idea is abhorrent to me." He also added that he doesn't recall ever hearing the Sami Switch track prior to the legal proceedings. On the similarities between Oh Why and Shape of You, he wrote, "Uses sequential notes from the pentatonic scale. It's a very common melodic structure in my experience." He stated he didn't recall which of the three of them came up with the OI section in question and described it as filler to get the song to flow from one section to another. Shape of You wasn't the only track the three songwriters wrote in that session. It was just one of many they worked on that day, with a lot of the other songs also becoming hits for various artists.
We've actually got a cut with Faith Hill and Tim McGraw that we wrote the same day.
And then we did another one after that.
We wrote a bunch that day. Oh, the Liam Payne one as well.
And that was when at the end of the third song, he said, "Go back and can you play me the first tune again?"
Ed Sheeran's writing process is very well documented. A quick search on YouTube brings up lots of videos of the actual writing sessions behind many of his biggest hits. And even when there isn't video, there's audio, as the whole process is recorded to make sure no magic moments are missed. The court was played excerpts of the Shape of You session. In one clip, Sheeran can be heard saying that they need to change the OI section as it was a bit close to the bone. He explained he felt that the section sounded similar to another song, but not Chokri's OI. It was this section in No Diggity by Blackstreet he was concerned about. Ian Mill QC, representing Ed Sheeran, questioned Chokri and suggested that Oh Why was itself inspired by an Ed Sheeran recording, his cover of Wayfaring Stranger, an old folk song made famous by Johnny Cash.
I am a poor wayfaring stranger.
Chokri acknowledged that he was familiar with Sheeran's version of the song, but denied it inspired his song. He insisted that Oh Why was an entirely original work, inspired by the emotional pain he felt in that moment. He said he feels robbed by Ed Sheeran. It was also noted that Oh Why had not been registered with PRS at the time of release. It was registered 2 years later in April 2017, 3 months after Shape of You was released. Ian Mill suggested that the real reason he'd registered the track was to pursue a copyright claim. Chokri denied this, claiming he didn't know that signing up to PRS was for that purpose. Forensic musicologists were called by both sides to provide evidence, and not surprisingly they gave contrasting opinions. Anthony Riccigliano, the musicologist who previously helped Led Zeppelin win a plagiarism trial over Stairway to Heaven, was called by Ed Sheeran's team, and copyright consultant Christian Siddell was called by the claimants. One said the songs were distinctly different, but the other argued they contained significant similarities. No prizes for guessing which one said what. In a joint written statement, both musicologists agreed that, when heard in the context of their respective works, the words OY and OI may be phonetically indistinguishable from each other to the casual listener. They also agreed that neither of them had found the same combination of phonetic sounds, pitch and rhythm in any other compositions. Riccigliano said he considered the extent of the alleged similarities to be overstated. He wrote, "The overall design and musical development of the melodic, harmonic and lyrical content in the relevant phrase in Shape of You are distinctly different from that utilised in OY, calling the similarities coincidental." He added that it was objectively unlikely that any overlap came as the result of copying. Mr. Siddell disagreed, saying that the similarities between the two songs were so numerous and striking that the possibility of independent creation is highly improbable. He also said the two melodies were nearly identical in respect of their rhythm and pitch. The phonetic sounds of the vocal lines were musically indistinguishable to the ear, and other compositional similarities included the use of phrase repetition and the musical dynamics. The crossover was unlikely to be the consequence of coincidence, he added. Had I been consulted in a copyright compliance capacity as to whether a license should be sought from the writers of OY, my guidance would have been, in summary, that either the melodic phrase should be omitted and replaced with original new material, or a license should be obtained. In closing arguments, Chokri's barrister said there was an indisputable similarity between the works. Sheeran's lawyer described the case as so strange as to be logically unintelligible. So, after 11 days, the trial concluded on March 22, 2022. Justice Saccaroli told both sides he would deliver his judgment as soon as I can. The verdict was delivered just over 2 weeks later on Wednesday, April 6th.
Justice Saccaroli is currently delivering his final closing words at the moment. We can tell you, though, that he has found in favour of Ed Sheeran.
In his ruling, Justice Saccaroli made it clear he believed that Sheeran had neither deliberately nor subconsciously copied Chokri's song. He acknowledged there were similarities between the one-bar phrase in Shape of You and OY, but said such similarities are only a starting point for a possible infringement. He said there were differences between the relevant parts of the songs which provide compelling evidence that the OI phrase in Sheeran's song originated from sources other than OY. He said the case that Sheeran had heard Chokri's song before writing Shape of You had only speculative foundation. I find, as a matter of fact, that he had not heard it. Following the judgment being delivered, Ed Sheeran posted this statement on his Instagram.
Whilst we're obviously happy with the result, I feel like claims like this are way too common now and have become a culture where a claim is made with the idea that a settlement will be cheaper than taking it to court, even if there's no base for the claim. It's really damaging to the songwriting industry. There's only so many notes and very few chords used in pop music. Coincidence is bound to happen if 60,000 songs are being released every day on Spotify. There's 22 million songs a year, and there's only 12 notes that are available. I don't want to take anything away from the pain and hurt suffered from both sides of this case, but I just want to say I'm not an entity. I'm not a corporation. I'm a human being. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a son. Lawsuits are not a pleasant experience, and I hope with this ruling it means in the future baseless claims like this can be avoided. This really does have to end. Me, Johnny and Steve are very grateful for all the support sent to us by fellow songwriters over the last few weeks. Hopefully we can all get back to writing songs rather than having to prove that we can write them. Thank you.
Sam Chokri's response was a little more cryptic. He posted a video on Instagram of people swimming in the sea with the caption, "Through despair I found an instant highway to gratitude. I am rich of love, friends and family. This is the beginning, not the end." Ed Sheeran has already spoken about the mental strain this case caused him and his co-writers, and also acknowledged it would have been difficult for Chokri too. The verdict came just 9 days before the next quarterly PRS payment, so Sheeran and his co-writers may not have to wait long to recover the roughly £2 million that was frozen by PRS. Meanwhile, Chokri is facing a huge legal bill that some legal experts estimate could be as much as £1 million. Now what do you think? Was the verdict correct? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to get all the latest videos.